Hi, this is Dr. Karen Wilson Starks, your host for the Voice of Leadership, the show for business executives and global corporations who appreciate a principled biblical lens on leadership, featuring the song Consuming Fire by gospel jazz saxophonist Ron McMillan. You are listening to our Resource Renewal Series featuring shows for times such as these. Today, I want to talk about three major mistakes in customer experience. And these are three major mistakes that many companies make. So the first one is what I'm going to call forgetting the importance of the customer, having the wrong attitude towards the customer. There are many people who just don't seem to remember or understand that without customers, you have no business. The customers are the ones who essentially pay the bills of the business, pay the salaries of the people in the business, including you as an executive or the president of the business. So you want to remember that customers are valuable partners in your success. And yet many companies treat customers more like pains in the rear or problems to be eradicated. And this, of course, is a major mistake and a wrong attitude. Often we see this dilemma in business to customer or B2C relationships when we're looking at people who are on the front lines and they're the customer facing team members or employees of the business. And sometimes those frontline workers, they show that they really don't understand the importance of valuing the customer. And let me give some common examples of things that you might see in a retail environment, a B2C type environment. Let's say there's the counter, and the customer normally would come up to the counter to make a purchase, to bring their merchandise, and so on. And the person who's on the cash register, instead of facing the customer so they can see who's coming in and who's at the counter, they have their back to the customer. They're doing something over there in the background. And so, therefore, they're not making any attempt to see if customers need any kind of service or if they need anything special. And this could go on for 5 minutes or more. I've been in situations like this, and you might have to try to clear your throat, knock on the counter. Often there's no bell or anything like that. And the person may or may not turn around, depending on just how severe this wrong attitude might be in that particular business. So, most of the time, when I've seen this behavior in action in an operation, the clerk is not doing anything that they could not turn around and face the customer and also do. Maybe there is a counter back there and they've got something on that counter. They could move those items in such a way that they could face the front, therefore be alert, be aware when a customer is present, and continue to do whatever task they're doing until someone comes. However, if you're a customer and you arrive and that's how you're treated, that doesn't feel very special. It's not good customer service, nor is it good customer experience, because you feel as though, as the customer, you're not very important. Another common that you see in the B2C environment is that the clerk or the person at the counter is talking on the telephone in what is obviously a personal phone call, talking to their friends, talking to a family member, having a conversation that you end up hearing, even though you don't want to hear the conversation. And often it's a crazy conversation that you probably shouldn't be hearing. And there's no real attention from the clerk because they're really embroiled in whatever this personal conversation is. That's another example of forgetting the importance of the customer. In other cases and occasions, when the customer comes into the store or comes up to the counter, you see the clerk roll their eyes. You see them move slow like molasses to come, and then they act like, oh, why did you come in here today? I don't have time for you. I don't feel like waiting on you right now. In fact, I don't even want to be here today. I don't even want to be in this job. And on top of it, adding insult to injury, they're loudly popping chewing gum or doing something else that is unprofessional. And remember, this is the front face of your business, employees who are operating like this. Sometimes there's what I'll call a real incongruity between what people are saying and what they're doing in terms of their body language and voice tone. So maybe you're there and they're saying, "Can I help you?" And the voice tone is kind of like that. They're not very animated. They look like the air has just been pulled out of them. The plug has just been pulled out of them. So, as a customer, you don't feel like this person really wants to help you. And so, when those nonverbals don't match the verbals, people usually pay attention more to the nonverbals and they assume that whatever you're saying, you really don't mean that because obviously your behavior is telling a very different story. And other times, and it may not be for any clear and obvious reasons, and sometimes it's because people in the store are legitimately and genuinely busy. And so when the customer comes in, they make no eye contact with the customer. They act like they are really busy. They don't acknowledge the presence of the customer. And this is very off putting. What would be a better strategy and a better approach is to at least say, "Hello, thank you for coming in. I'll be with you shortly," or someone will be with you shortly, if not that person. This way, you know that the person sees you, you see that they acknowledge you, they know that you're there, and there is a plan to provide some service to you. I know that in the remote past, when I lived in the South, it was kind of like a code. If I went into an establishment, they made no eye contact, and for X number of minutes, they didn't act like they were planning to serve me. Chances are, in those southern towns, they had no intentions of serving me as an African American person. And this was clearly the message: you're not valued, you're not welcome here, we have no intentions of serving you. So if that happens today, even though that may not be the meaning in that store, it conjures up those same bad memories. And I don't know if that store or if that person is saying, "You can stand here as long as you want. We never will serve you and have no intention of serving you." So you have to be thinking about what is the unintended message you might give to the customer when you fail to acknowledge their presence or to say, "We'll be with you shortly," or "Sorry for the wait and the delay. We're a little busy right now. However, we are coming to you." That's very reassuring, and especially from someone from my background when these behaviors usually have meant something else. Now, in a business to business context or B2B, a lot of times what happens there when people have forgotten that customers really are important and should be treated important is that maybe that business client that's really part of your portfolio and that you're supposed to call on, meaning someone who works for you, a team member, you get busy and those frontline people don't return those calls. They don't keep in touch with the people in their account. They don't prioritize what's important to the client. The client might need to have a question answered that day or the next day. You think it's okay to wait 3 days before you call. And you don't call in the meantime to say there's an unexpected delay, why there might be a delay, or to tell them when you're going to call instead. So, in this kind of context, again, the customer feels that they're not valued, they're not important. It's very important to think about, what does it feel like in your customer's chair? What does it feel like walking in their shoes? If you were treated the way that you are treating them, what are some takeaway messages that you might conclude, whether true or not? Because people are making up stories in their own minds as to why you're not calling back, as to why you're not answering their questions. So you want to think about the fact that in most businesses, clients do have other choices. And if they don't have them now, they'll have them in the future because someone's going to look at how you're treating the customer in your business and they're going to say, "We can provide much better customer service and a much greater customer experience in this same line of work. And therefore, we will be the go to people and not this business that doesn't know how to value and treat customers. And if you're in an industry where there are very few players, and maybe you're the only game in town, so people really do have to come to you for whatever the service is, they're only going to tolerate you so long as you're the only game in town or until a new game comes that understands what's important and is willing to provide a better customer experience. And in today's world, when you can do a lot of purchasing and a lot of relationships virtually, you may find that an out of town provider is going to be preferred over you, even though there may be some inconvenience to that because the customer experience that you're delivering is noxious to the customer and the customer is not feeling valued. So, that number one major mistake is forgetting the importance of the customer, having the wrong attitude towards the customer. Number two, what I would call is a wrong focus. And this is when a business is so focused on the kind of ratings and scores that they get, they're concerned with the customer rankings and awards that they might receive far more than they really are concerned about true customer service or customer experience. So in these cases, they hand out the surveys to the customers. They ask only the questions that they think will lead to them receiving the right numbers that they want. They're going for the net promoter score in that 8 to 10 range, and they're doing everything they can to make sure that that happens. However, they don't really care about the kind of service or the kind of experience they're delivering. They're not even interested in asking questions that are really of concern to the customer so that they can get the feedback that would help them to make the business better. So, if you really want to know how customers are feeling about your business, ask the questions that you think are important and also leave space for them to give you feedback about what you're not asking. Because it could be that what's really important to them is not really what you're asking about. So you want the customer to have an opportunity to share what they care about more than just you getting an answer on what you care about absent of the customer being part of that equation. So when organizations are focused on these scores, when they're focused on these awards, so they get in the newspaper, the trade magazine, or whatever it is, this is a focus on what I call the window dressing rather than focusing on the substance of what they're really doing at work. And in the final analysis, if your business doesn't reflect the numbers that you claim you've received in the ratings, if your business does not reflect the awards that you may have received in the industry, no one is going to believe the numbers, no one is going to believe the awards, and no one's really going to care. And after they've shopped you once, maybe twice, they're not coming back. So that's a wrong focus on scores and awards more than on truly understanding the customer and meeting what's important to the customer. The third area that I would say is a wrong area and a big mistake is what I'll call the wrong philosophy. Philosophy in a company is something that is taught and it's something that's transferred. It's when you as a business decide how do you want to be known in the marketplace? How do you want people to see you in the marketplace? And you cannot assume that all of your team members, all of your employees automatically get this and share that same vision of how you want to show up in the marketplace. So that means you must spend time really talking about the core values of the business. This is how we do things. We do things with a great level of excellence. We do things such that the customer is satisfied. We listen to the unique scenarios and challenges of the customer. And if there's any way that we can alleviate the concern or the difficulty or the problem, we get creative and we think outside the box and we make it happen, because that's then a delighted customer, a happy customer who's likely to come back. You might want to share with your team members and employees that part of the values are to serve at a very high level the customer, and not just to always say, no, I'm sorry, we don't do that. No, we can't do that. When you say no all the time, the customer definitely doesn't feel important, doesn't feel valued. So instead of thinking about all the rules, all the regulations, and all the places where you can say no, you might say, well, think about that. Maybe there's another way to meet this need. We're not quite able to do A, but you know what? What we could do is we could do B, and B would help meet this concern that you have. And you then customize a solution for that customer that may not be exactly what they asked for, but it meets the need and goes a little bit above and beyond, so that you still have the wow and the delight factor in the customer experience. So I think that part's really important, is transferring this philosophy about who you are. That means in your business, you want to collect examples of people in the company who've provided this excellent customer experience. What are those stories of customer experience in action? And you want to share those at large with the rest of the organization. So this is a picture of who we are and who we want to be in the marketplace. This is how we want to show up. And when so and so crafted this unique solution for this customer, they shined us in a good light. They serviced the customer. They made us memorable. And those are the values that we want to repeat over and over again. So you want your team members to know of the abundance mindset that you have towards your business. If you preach every day to your team members a mindset of scarcity, they will treat the customers with a mindset of scarcity. And that mindset of scarcity says, we're just stuck in our own way of looking at things. We're blind to any other opportunities and possibilities. And the answer is going to be no. And you're going to leave here less than delighted. So help your team members to always think about, how can we say yes, even if it means getting very creative? And how can we say yes without violating any core principles at the same time? There are often many ways to say yes that you haven't thought of yet, if you'll only take the time to brainstorm and figure it out. And if you feel like you're not creative enough in the moment yourself, you could ask the person to wait and consult with someone else, brainstorm together, and see what you can come up with that really would show the philosophy of the company of providing excellence, of providing that customer experience at a high level. Just understand that your people need to see pictures of it. They need to have conversations about it so that they know what it looks like, what's expected, and what's okay from your vantage point. A lot of times people are fearful of making choices that are outside of the norm. They fear they're going to get in trouble. And this is the reason that they don't embrace the philosophy of the company. However, if you share the philosophy, give examples of the philosophy, reward it in other people, that's now teaching it and transferring it throughout the ranks. And it's not one of those things that's a one and done. You'll have to continue to do it regularly, daily, weekly, annually, as new people come in, as new teams get new missions. You don't want to say to yourself, oh, well, they had that in employee orientation. Back in employee orientation, people don't even fully understand their jobs yet. Once they have been in the company for a while and they've been working, that same information is taken in at a deeper level with a different lens in mind. So you want to repeat the messages more than once at different stages of the team members' development because they're going to hear it differently and be able to use it at a higher level as their experience in your company grows and changes. And everything that you want your team members to understand about the importance of the customer, about the importance of going beyond just scores and rankings to really having true customer experience, everything you want them to understand about your philosophy of excellence. You also teach it by how you treat your team members. Treat them as the internal customers that they are in your business. And now they are learning by example, they are learning by modeling what customer experience looks like in your company and in your organization. So I hope that that helps you to think about ways that you could move forward in your organization, spreading the word of customer experience. And we'll end today with a Bible verse that comes from Philippians, the second chapter, and we'll read verses 14 through 15, which says, "Do all things without complaining and disputing, that you may become blameless and harmless, children of God without fault in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation, among whom you shine as lights in the world." That is a wonderful way to think about it. Remember, you are a light in the world and you want to operate with excellence. Do everything without complaining, without disputing, and without that scowl on your face that says, "I'm not happy that you're here. I really don't want to help you or serve you." Do just the opposite, and you will find you'll have customers and clients in abundance, and repeat customers and clients who continue to come back to receive the special customer service and customer experience that you provide. We have been talking about both customer service and also customer experience. Today, what I want to talk about is what I'm going to call customer experience is providing consistent VIP star status to your best customers. And really, you can provide a little VIP status to customers in general so that you have some best customers to provide it to, but certainly for your best customers. And I just want to give some examples of this as we're talking about it. When we're talking about consistent VIP star status, you want to know what this looks like in your company and what in your industry and line of business truly delights your customers. So I'm going to talk first about hotels as an example. One of the benefits of VIP status that I enjoy in hotels is to have a late checkout. And my go to hotel is the Marriott brand. And they offer a really generous late checkout for VIP clients who have frequent stays at their properties. Now, the reason that I like late checkout is because normally I'm working a very tough and a very long week, and I don't feel like getting on an early morning flight the next day. I prefer to take an afternoon flight, sleep in the morning if I want to, order room service breakfast leisurely if I feel like it, and then take my time getting out of the room into the airport. And when I do this, I'm resting at the place where I've been out of town doing business so that by the time I get home that evening, I'm not completely worn out like a dish rag. And so when I see my husband, I'm happy to see him. I'm ready to have conversations and communicate with him. Whereas if I had to leave on a 7 a.m. flight, even though I'd get home earlier, it would be less desirable for me in the way that I'm wired. I'd be worn out and not recover from being worn out. This way, I have a chance to rest, I have a chance to recover. And for me, that also strengthens my immune system, meaning that I'm less likely to catch a lot of things. I discovered this almost by accident that by trying to take those early morning flights and rush to get out of the hotel before noon and to the airport, I would get sick frequently when doing that. So, this particular service of the hotel is extremely valuable and extremely important to me. In fact, it's one of my favorite things that they offer is the late checkout. There's another hotel brand that I decided not to continue staying there because they really didn't offer late checkout to their VIP guests. And in addition, they would offer it after you reached a certain level. And even when you were just at the door of that certain level, they still would not offer late checkout, not even an hour of late checkout. In fact, that particular hotel brand, if you wanted an extra hour, that was a whole half day rate to stay in the hotel. Well, I just thought that was ridiculous that there was no grace period, there were no exceptions. And so, therefore, to me, that wasn't really worth it to keep that particular hotel brand on my list of hotels. So I stopped staying in that hotel since they did not have consistently late checkout. The other thing I like in the hotel space is complimentary room upgrades. It's kind of fun to book a certain kind of room, go to the hotel, and they may have complimentary upgrades available. And sometimes I've been upgraded to palatial suites that had multiple bathrooms or that might have full kitchens and other amenities. And it's really an enjoyable experience to benefit from an upgrade of that type and to get more space and more room. And in those scenarios, I feel like I'm at home. I feel like I'm a welcomed guest, and I'm much more likely to stay in a hotel that offers complimentary upgrades. So that's another VIP star service that I personally really enjoy. The other thing I really like is I hate paying hotel parking fees. So sometimes, as a VIP guest, I might be offered free parking. And for me, that is really great. It's a wonderful bonus. Parking can really raise fees significantly. You might be paying 50 or 60 some dollars extra a night in parking fees alone. So if you get a bonus of free parking, that's saving a lot on a week or 10-day stay. And most of my stays tend to be at least 7 days long. Another amenity in hotels that I find valuable is the free full service breakfast. Not the breakfast where they just have coffee and donuts, because I don't drink coffee and I don't eat donuts. But at the full service breakfast, I can put together a very healthy meal and something that I would enjoy and something that I do eat. So it's the full service breakfast, usually with some made to order components that I find valuable in hotels as a VIP amenity. Also, it's great to have special items left in the room, and the hotel has done their homework and they know what I prefer. I always prefer extra bottled water as an example, but sometimes a hotel might provide something in addition to that. It might be a snack item, and if they ask me, I might be able to request things like unsalted pistachios or raw unsalted pistachios. I might be able to request a bowl of cherries or a couple of gala apples. Most hotels carry red and delicious apples, which I don't particularly care for. I don't like red and delicious apples. However, I do like the gala apple. So it's wonderful when there are options, when there are choices, and when they ask you. Otherwise, I may get stuck with some bananas, and that's not something I eat either. So it's great when I don't have to waste food and receive things I'm not going to eat, when they know what I like and make sure that's what's in the room and what's available. I remember one time that my husband and I were staying in a very lovely five-star hotel, and it was our anniversary. And typically in hotels, if it's your anniversary, they might want to deliver champagne or chocolates or something of this sort. And my husband and I don't drink alcohol. And so I informed the hotel that no, we wouldn't necessarily want a bottle of champagne. However, I asked them if they carried our favorite celebratory drink, which is Martinelli's sparkling apple cider, specifically the brand Martinelli's. And they said, no, we don't have Martinelli's sparkling cider. And we said, oh, okay, that's really too bad. And we were sorry they didn't have it. And they said, well, we'll check with the room service. And they came back and they didn't have it. Now, about an hour or so later, in this hotel, room service delivered a chilled bottle of Martinelli's sparkling apple cider. Where they got it from, I don't know. As a customer, I was tremendously delighted that they did whatever they had to do to get this special drink that my husband and I like. And as I mentioned, it was a five-star property, and they lived up to their five-star name by going above and beyond to provide this extra special amenity. I don't know if they sent someone to the store or what they did. However, they found and delivered Martinelli's sparkling apple cider, and we enjoyed that for our anniversary that year. So when you think about star service, you think about VIP service, since that was a very special request, we felt like very special guests. It's also wonderful in a hotel context to really be remembered, to be remembered by the staff. And I know in my case, and in my husband's case, there's certain hotels that we will frequent, and the restaurant staff will remember us. For one thing, we might be regular guests. They're very kind to us. We're very kind to them. I also have a special diet, so sometimes the servers and also the chefs will remember me because I'm having to order things that are special or made to order. And when I get VIP and star treatment concerning my food and the servers in the restaurant, I am delighted. That's a special place for us. And it goes on the list that says, come back here again, visit this hotel again, frequent this hotel, give them more business. It's also great to be remembered by the front desk staff. There are some hotels that I go to and they say, oh, Dr. Wilson Starks, so nice to see you. Welcome back. So glad to have you with us again. So they remember that I'm a returning guest. They remember my name. They know the elite status that I might have at that hotel chain or particular property. And they want to make sure that I have everything I need to make my stay special. So being acknowledged, being remembered, that counts for something as well. There's a hotel in Greensboro, North Carolina, where the bell staff are the ones who do the remembering, the desk staff too, but especially the bell staff. I don't have to say anything. Show up. They know what I want. They know what I like. They know how I prefer that my luggage is delivered to the room. They greet me by name. And it is a wonderful VIP and star experience when the bellmen respond in that way. Now, of course, these people who are providing the special service, whether they're servers, whether they're chefs, whether they're bellmen, I'm going to treat them well too. So there's a benefit and a win-win in all directions in that case. I think that when you're thinking about customer experience, it's so helpful to remember to ask the customers to rate what they prefer in terms of the special amenities that you provide, and for the customer to tell you the order of their preference. I think very often hotels think that the number one thing that people are going to choose is maybe the breakfast. And for me, it's the late checkout. That's what I care about the most. And that's what I'm always going to put as number one. So you don't want to be in a position of assuming that you know what the guests prefer. Take the time to ask them. I love all of those amenities. And I do have a preferred order and preference of the amenities as well. You also want to take the time to ask what else the customer would like to see that may not be provided. There have been a number of times when I have shared services that I thought would be useful or helpful that the hotel might not have provided. Sometimes they had downscaled the refrigerators in some rooms, types, or buildings such that it was really more of a little cooler. And again, because of certain medical things that I might be carrying with me, more of the dorm style refrigerator, and particularly the taller, bigger one, was more preferred. And it made it easier for me to store my unsweetened almond milk, which I usually purchase in at least a half-gallon size that normally doesn't fit into those little cooler refrigerators. And that type of almond milk is not typically available in hotels, as the hotels usually serve the sweetened variety. So, again, these are just special things that make a difference. So, when you're downsizing a service, getting rid of a service, you don't know, maybe your customers likes to stay at your hotel because you have that type of refrigerator. I know there is a hotel too. In today's time, very few hotels still carry radios because people really like to bring their own source of music and entertainment. I happen to love the radio, and particularly, I enjoy listening to local radio wherever I'm staying so I can see what's going on in that city, what's going on in that area, and it'll be something unique and different in terms of the programming in comparison to where I live. And so, yeah, I could get on one of the providers of national services and you have standard programming, there's nothing like the flavor of local programming from my perspective. And so there are a few, not very many, hotels that still carry some radios. And in one case, they carry a very high quality radio with sound that is professional level sound. So not only do I get to hear the local flavor, but I get to hear it on the best equipment imaginable. So you don't know what your customer likes unless you check in, unless you ask. So I've been talking about hotels for a while, so I'm going to switch a little bit and talk about air travel, which is another service that I know a lot about because I travel a lot on airplanes. And so one of the services on the airplane that I really enjoy is complimentary first class upgrades. It's wonderful to be upgraded into first class, have a bigger seat, to have different kind of food choices and options, a higher premium level of service, unlimited drinks of whatever kind you prefer. In my case, I'm just going to drink a lot of water, but I love to have that option to drink a lot of water rather than have to chase down someone in coach to get maybe almost like a half a cup of water. And that's really not enough when you're on a long flight. And most of my flights tend to be a little bit long as I'm going from one coast to the next or whatever in the United States. Clearly, when I travel internationally and for global flights, I'm going to fly first class anyway. But in the domestic flying, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And I'll just use complimentary upgrades. It's also wonderful if you're a VIP client to have that special 800 number that you call when you need service because you're going to get someone faster. You'll get a more knowledgeable person on the other end of the phone, often who's in your own host country, speaks your language as the native language, and typically is a better problem solver or one who has the authority to make exceptions sometimes to rules that may be in place. And I may have a good reason why I may need an exception. And so it's wonderful to have that VIP line and VIP providers providing service on that line in a way that, again, finds a way to say yes, or here's an alternative, or here's something that we can do that would still meet your needs. The other thing that I find really helpful in air travel is early boarding. I love to get on the plane earlier because usually I have a lot of luggage and it allows me to get everything situated and in place and not have to hold up other people because by the time other people are coming on the plane, I've already got everything taken care of. And also because I am traveling for work, there are many items that I really cannot put under the plane. So I've got to find space for them in the cabin. And if I'm boarding last, there may not be any overhead space. So boarding first is really a great option and amenity as well. Occasionally, there are times when there are special things that are offered. There was one time that my husband and I were traveling to Chicago, and so United contacted us and said there was a show that was being done by a performer who we would love to hear in Chicago. And for a very small amount of miles, we could go to this show since we were going to be in Chicago anyway. We thought, oh, what a wonderful opportunity. So we said we would expend the miles, we would go to the show and see this particular performer. And then when we got to the venue, attended the show, which was phenomenal, they made an announcement during the middle of it to say that all of us who were United VIPs who attended this show, they were not going to charge mileage out of our account. It was a complimentary show. Now, first of all, it was a delight to have the opportunity to go to the show and using miles out of our account, and then to be gifted the show without the miles. That was true customer experience delight, VIP star service. Unexpected. We weren't anticipating it. It was not even mentioned or announced until we were already at the show. So that's a great thing to also have as just an occasional something that you can do that's only for that VIP community. Everyone there actually was a United VIP customer. It was a special show that they curated with this nationally known artist. It's also wonderful in the air travel arena to also be recognized by gate agents and by those who are at the counter on United, for example, since I typically fly United, and in airports that I frequent, such as my own home airport. And typically, people do remember me and they say, oh, welcome back, Dr. Wilson Starks. It's so good to see you. And where are you going today, or whatever? And just have a little chit chat and a little banter back and forth, just again being acknowledged, being remembered. The same thing is true in the United Red Carpet Club, the United Club, where someone there remembers me and provides excellent service. I remember some years ago, there was a man in the Denver United Club. He was really kind of a concierge service provider for an even higher elite level than where I am. And occasionally he would just be working in the club and he provided that star VIP service to me as well. And I cannot tell you how memorable he was to me and how he really made the airline look good because of the level of customer experience that he provided. I will never forget him because of how I was treated at that red carpet club consistently whenever I saw him. And if I happened to be just walking down the United Concourse, the B Concourse, going somewhere, wasn't even in a club, if he saw me, he would see me, he would stop, and he would greet me and talk to me and ask about my husband, whether he was traveling with me or not. That's a high level of customer service. You expect maybe they might remember you or see you in the club, but the concourse with hundreds of people, and they pick you out and say, yep, I know who you are. You are one of our regular frequent flyers. That's going above and beyond. And I certainly remember it and will continue to remember it. The next example I'm going to share is really not an example of a business providing customer experience. One of my clients actually provided this customer experience. They were doing a special meeting and they wanted me to come to facilitate a part of this meeting. And as it turned out, this is a big global corporate client, and they wanted me to come during the week of my anniversary. And that's the time I usually don't accept work of this nature because I know I'm going to be working night and day. It's not going to be the anniversary that I have in mind. And they were bringing in partners from all over the world. And it just so happened these dates worked globally for everyone. And so they were trying to figure out how can we sweeten the pot so that you would be willing to come during this time. And it was a significant anniversary for my husband and I. I don't remember which one. I just remember that it was one of the significant ones. And so they said the night of our anniversary happened to be a night that they were doing a special boat cruise that was going to be on the San Francisco Bay. And they said, well, we'll tell you what, why don't you have your husband come too? Invite him to come and you both can attend this together and make it a special event. So I talked to my husband about it and he was willing to fly into California for this. He didn't stay the whole week I was there. He came in the night before, flew in at that time. And then the next night, I worked all day that day. And then we had this boat cruise, which happened to be on the night of our anniversary. Unbeknownst to me, the client had planned a whole lot of things. So on the boat cruise, you have dancing, you have food. It's a big, huge event. It's wonderful. They also had a special cake made wishing my husband and I happy anniversary by name, the years of the anniversary, all of that was on the cake. And because it was this boat cruise, it was like having by our own private reception. People were coming in and congratulating us. It was unbelievable. This was many years ago. I still remember it. It is one of our most special anniversaries. And that was certainly a VIP and star experience that I'll never forget. And they were actually my customers, and they were giving me the VIP treatment in that case. So you can do it from any place. You can be the customer or you can be the one who is the provider. And so I am forever thankful for that memory, which as long as I can remember things, I will remember that anniversary and our cruise down the San Francisco Bay with all of these wonderful people from the corporation. I'll also mention a few things just from the retail space, and that is when you are a regular customer of a brand or a particular company, being treated as a special person because you're in a special loyalty program is also a phenomenal way to go. To be assigned a dedicated personal shopper, somebody who knows the details of what you like. They keep up with it. Somebody who keeps an eye out for the kinds of items, let's say if we're talking clothing, that let's say I might enjoy. And therefore they'd call me up or send me something, whether it be text, email, or whatever, say, oh, something just came in. Think you might really like this. It looks like your style. We have your size. Or to know that there may be a piece I purchased 3 months ago and now a companion piece has come in that's available. And they may check with me to see if I'd like to add that to my collection. Well, that's wonderful to have somebody looking out and paying attention in those ways to match these pieces up together in that way. Now, this is what I call VIP and star service in contrast to sales providers who they know that I am a good customer. They know that I'm a repeat customer, that I'm going to be buying things. So they call me up or just try to sell me anything, knowing full well that that's not my style, knowing that that's not what I like. I've already informed them. So that's an annoyance. Don't call somebody up and offer things they've already told you they have no interest in or that they don't want just because you're trying to make a sale. It's only VIP when it's customized to me. And that's how you want to think about it with your clients. I also love to be invited to private sales, to private discount codes that may not be offered to other people, or to have certain cash that's already in my account because of previous purchases or the frequency of purchases that I've already made or that are only for the frequent shoppers. I also love free shipping and free return shipping. So companies that offer free shipping, free return shipping, they go down in my book because they're providing something that I see as very valuable. And especially nowadays, because you're taxed with the local taxes plus the shipping, and that's an extra burden. So if the shipping can be removed, wonderful. That it's just something that I really like. And I also like clearance sales and deep sales on high end merchandise. And so when my personal shopper remembers to let me know of those special sales that they know I enjoy, that's meaningful to me. And I'm highly likely to stock up on a lot of things at that time because they are on the deep discount sale. So these are just some examples of how you can add some VIP and star service to your loyal customers. And by providing some of these, even before they're fully loyal customers, you actually increase the likelihood that they become your loyal customers. And you won't be in the situation I was in with that one hotel where I had frequent stays, was with them for a good amount of time, and they just refused to do even an hour of a late checkout. So you want to think about this. Do you want to be penny wise and pound foolish or not? And it's best to say, let me invest in my customer because my customer is also going to continue to invest in me. So I want to end today's segment by reading a verse from Second Corinthians, the ninth chapter, starting in verse 10 and going through 11. Now may he who supplies seed to the sower and bread for food, supply and multiply the seed you have sown and increase the fruits of your righteousness while you are enriched in everything for all liberality, which causes thanksgiving through us to God. So just remember when you're out there at work, you are representing the God that you serve. And when you serve with a heart of abundance and you cause increase to others, increase will also come back to you. Today, we're talking about something that I'm very passionate about, and you hear me talk about it frequently. And today, it's in the version of Know Your Customer, Gain Competitive Advantage. And what's important in being able to gain competitive advantage in a very busy and crowded marketplace is you have to spend time with your customer to understand what are their pain points. That means you really have to listen deeply. So, number one, spend time with your customer, listen deeply. Number two, when you're with the customer, you want to ask the right questions and particularly open ended questions where they can go anywhere they want to go. I remember in the past, sometimes my airline would ask me questions, but it would be more about a closed ended thing, maybe something I didn't care about really. However, if they said, what would you see as excellent customer service? What would you like to see more of? Or what would you like to see less of? Those kinds of questions would allow me to really say what's important from my point of view. So when you're with your customer and you're spending this time and you're listening to them, ask them questions that allow them to paint the canvas any way that they want to. Thirdly, I would say, invite your customers to dream, to really envision that best world from their point of view. A lot of times, businesses are reluctant to do this because they say, well, we're not going to be able to produce a Lamborghini for them or a Ferrari for them if that's what they want.
Well, maybe you won't exactly get the Lamborghini or the Ferrari. However, when you listen to them and you find out that that's what their interest is, you might be able to get to a third solution that's better than the Pinto that they're driving right now. So maybe it would be the Mercedes, or maybe it would be the BMW. Whatever the third solution is, it would come from both listening to them and also adding your own perspective. And that's better than just bringing them what you think they need, which usually is not what they're interested in. Number four would be your objective in listening to them is to identify opportunities to serve that other companies aren't providing. What is it in your industry that people really want more of from their providers, but nobody's doing it? Yet your client is interested in having that service and they're willing to pay a premium for it because it's something that they want and it's something that they consider high value. So, for example, years ago in the car repair industry, it was always a pain to have to put your car in the shop because it meant losing a lot of hours and staying down there at the shop waiting for the car to get ready, or the inconvenience of having someone to pick you up and to take you to work or wherever else you needed to go. So eventually, some car repair places started providing transportation. That was value added because it really was something that customers wanted and something that they valued. Now, the key to all of this is that if you offer only what everyone else offers, and there is no distinction in your service, then you have no added value. And in essence, your service has become a commodity. And that's a lot about the copycat world that we're in. The store down the street, store A, sees a store B is doing X, so they do X. So A copies off of B. There's really no difference, there's no distinction. And that leaves your business then to compete on price, which is never a good spot to be in. You want to be competitive based on value, not on price. And the way you get to value is what we've already talked about. Number one, spend time with your customers, listen deeply. Number two, ask the right questions, the open ended questions that allow them to say what they want to say. Number three, invite them to dream about what the perfect world looks like so that you together can get to the third solution that neither one of you thought of and that is possible. Number four, identify opportunities to serve where other companies are not providing that valued service. And the bottom line is offer what others are not offering so that you become distinctive and have a competitive advantage in the marketplace. So go out there and find out what customers want and discover how your organization can provide that service or that product.
Thank you for listening to The Voice of Leadership with me, Dr. Karen Wilson Starks. I am also your concierge executive leadership advisor for when you need to make tough business decisions, facilitate executive succession and transition, develop your executive team, lead change, create a positive and profitable culture, or leverage marketplace creative advantage. You can reach me at Dr. Karen, Karen, at transleadership.com. Also go to my website, transleadership.com, for more leadership resources and insights. I want to give special thanks to Ron McMillan, gospel jazz saxophonist and national Billboard recording artist, also known as Mr. Sirius XM Jazz Watercolors, for allowing us to use his gifted music on our show. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.